afternoon, everybody. My name is Jessica Parker White. I'm the education coordinator here at CMC Arts, and we're really excited today to continue our series exploring art career pathways. It is March 16th, and today we have Jean Picou. He will be here today to explain to us about graphic design, logos and advertisements. This whole series is thanks to St. Croix Foundation. So we definitely want to thank them and their generosity here through their grant that is helping us host this wonderful Zoom. Because everybody who's here today, your name will be in the hat for a $75 gift certificate, good for the frame up or for Office Max, your choice, to help pay for some art supplies and help you continue your art career here, and hopefully the start of something beautiful here with Jean Picou helping lead us in graphic design today. So thank you again to St. Croix Foundation, and thank you again to Jean Picou.
Hey guys, hi everybody. Thanks for being here, and thanks Jessica for inviting me to do this. I watched some of the other videos, and they're all really cool, really inspiring to hear other creatives talk about what they do. It's not the exact same thing I do, but it's still inspiring to listen to them. I used to live and work on St. Croix, and CMC Arts was one of my favorite clients. I did a lot of work for them over the years. So I was always hanging out in Frederickstead and loved it. So yeah, so it's really cool to be part of something that CMC Arts is doing. It's a really cool place. Like Jessica mentioned, my name is Jean Picou. I'm a graphic designer and an art director. They're basically the same job with slight differences, and I'll explain those in a minute. I've been doing this job in some form or fashion for about 30 years. I graduated high school in 1989 in Virginia Beach. Yes, a very long time ago. And I was a good student. I loved all the regular subjects and science and math and whatnot, but I just gravitated towards art. But I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what you could do with art. And luckily I had a teacher, an art teacher, who really guided me and helped me realize that you could make a career from art. At the time, it was called commercial art. It's called graphic design now. But at the time, it was called commercial art, meaning commercial or sell or make money. Technically, I guess all art is commercial art. We're all trying to make some money, but that's what it was called at the time. Yeah, so she just showed me that, you know, you can turn those skills into an actual job. So she pointed me in the direction of art school. And there's lots of options out there for colleges and things. Most universities and college do offer an art program. You have to still take the academic courses, though. You still have to do the math and science and all that kind of other stuff. So she knew I was kind of done with all of that and pushed me towards just art school. So that's what I did. I took her advice and I went to Baltimore, Maryland, and studied at the Maryland Institute College of Art. It's one of the top art schools in the country. And so for 4 years, I was there and just immersed in art. That's all we did. All kinds, everything about art, art history, photography, drawing. It didn't matter what you were going there for. You had to do all of those things. You had to learn about all of those things, which is what makes a good student, a good art student at least. So for 4 years, that's what we did. And it worked. You know, we all came out, I think, whether we stuck with it or not, we came out better art students for it. I still draw and paint today, even though it's not my main source of income. I love photography, all because of school. I did miss, things like you would have at a regular school, like mascots and school colors and sports teams and things like that. But I lived in Baltimore, so we had the Orioles, we had the Ravens later. So I was fine with that. So, but art school is a great place to go.
You definitely find too, Jean, like an art school. I mean, I know one of the things I miss now as an adult was that having that camaraderie with the other students, and you're sharing ideas and having those critiques, and everyone's kind of pushing each other in these studios that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, freshman and sophomore year, if I remember correctly, you didn't get a studio, but junior and senior year you did, and it really took off then. Um, Collaborations happening all the time between different people, doing different things. Sculptors working with ceramics and fabrics, and designers working with Illustrator. I mean, it was the place to be if you wanted to do this. So yeah, consider art school if you think about it.
How many of you actually are considering maybe going to the next level after high school? Is anybody on here? I see a hand up or two.
Yeah.
Okay, thinking about it. Yeah. So again, it's never too young to start looking, and you guys have the internet. I don't want to date John and I, but yeah.
I found out about my school because of a postcard that somebody had.
Yeah, it's a little different these days, but yeah. So again, you guys have so much access that you can really find out about those programs that are out there for colleges and universities and art schools too. So I hope you guys start diving into that. So you graduated with a degree in studio, or was it in the actual
so the actual graduation, the actual degree was in visual communication. It was split into two parts: visual communication, and that included graphic design on one side and illustration on the other side. So we graduated with visual communications degrees in graphic design or Illustrator. Mine was in graphic design. Yeah, my senior year, I was lucky enough to get my first real design job while I was still in school. So my senior year, I got a job at a publishing company, and I started designing book covers and books and greeting cards also. And I did that for a while. It was a really good company, and you learned a lot. What they don't teach you in school is how to be an employee somewhere. So that was a good place to learn how to go to work, have a job, do the things that you need to do. I really wanted to do advertising, so that's what I got into eventually. So I left the publishing company and started working on advertising because I wanted to do ad campaigns and logos and all the stuff that comes with advertising. So eventually, that's what happened. I left the publishing company and started working in advertising for a while in Baltimore, different places, and then later for myself. Which is it's a whole other world to actually work for yourself. And then eventually I ended up on St. Croix, where I continued to work for myself for about 14 years. I was there. I was very lucky to be able to do that. Had lots of different clients. And I wanted to touch on that because I think that's key, is the variety. It's all graphic design, but if you can, whenever you can, try to find that variety of clients. The variety is what's going to offer you the challenge, right? So each new client is going to have a new problem, a different type of problem to solve, and that's what's going to keep you wanting to do it for so long. So some of the clients I've had over the years are education clients, like universities and colleges, hospitality, hotels and resort type thing, healthcare, construction, real estate, nonprofits, all kinds of stuff. And I've even done political candidates. I've even done stuff for other creative people. So other, photographers and writers, musicians, jewelry designers, which you'll see some of this later. Yeah, so variety is the key. So whenever you can, if you can, just try to mix it up as much as possible. Lots of times you take what you can get, but when you can.
Which I think is one of the reasons probably, creative art people like to have that, the fact that you're not at a desk job and every day is exactly the same. So that routine's definitely not, it mixes up quite a bit, with graphic design, I'm sure too. And you get to meet with clients and, as you were saying, and figure out what their needs are.
Yeah, the process is the same, the concepting and the thinking and all that, but you get to reset each time and start it all over again, but with a new thing versus, typical office job. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. So that brings me to my next point. I wanted to define what my job title is. Graphic design, really quick title or a quick definition is, our job is to create a visual solution for a communication problem. So you have a client who has a problem. He needs to, or she needs to communicate something. And we help them solve that problem, usually with a visual, And their problems usually, clients' problems usually land in one of four categories. It's a product that they're trying to sell, a physical product that you're trying to do something with, a message, peace, equality, civil rights, some kind of message you're trying to get out there, an event, that's self-explanatory, and or a service. It can be different, it could be different levels, different types of things, but it usually falls into one of those four categories. So event, service, product, or message. And when your client comes to you with the problem of trying to get one of those things out there, that's our job, is to help them do that. The solutions come in lots of different forms, usually one of three. So it's either going to be a print solution, which is a magazine, billboard, ad, something you can hold. Electronic, which nowadays is pretty much the internet, anything that goes online, or broadcast, TV, radio, or again, the internet, with podcasts and things like that. So one of those three things is your solution will fall into one of those three categories. And earlier I mentioned I was a graphic designer and an art director, and I just wanted to touch real quick on the difference. It's a really small difference. Art directors usually deal with a broader range of issues within that project, versus the graphic designer, which deals with usually pieces of the project. So a client comes to you and wants to sell something or promote something. The art director usually works with the client to figure out where we're going to go and what it all is going to look like, the branding, that's a good buzzword, what it's all going to look like. And you're going to have a graphic designer who's going to help you with each one of those individual pieces and make sure it fits in with the overall idea. The art director usually works with the photographer or the illustrator or the writer, different pieces to get the project going. Branding was a good thing I brought up because that's going to kind of fit into what we're going to do today or for your project. Branding gets misused sometimes. It's not the logo. The logo isn't branding. It's part of the branding. So let's take Apple, for instance. Their little logo that we all know with the bite taken out. That's not their brand. That's their logo, which is their face of their brand. Their brand is that plus their packaging, their colors, their ads, the way their stores look, what their employees wear, their commercials. All of this stuff together is their brand, and then the logo is the face on that brand. So for you, if we used you as an analogy, your face would be the logo, and your brand would be your outfits, your clothes, your hair, how you talk, what music you listen to, people you hang out with, all of that together is your brand. So yeah, that's you
guys, everyone that's online right now with us, everybody understanding the difference there between logo and branding? Or do you have any questions that you're thinking of right now that you'd like to ask? So far, so good.
All right.
John's
okay.
doing a great job. Mr. Picou, I should say. You understand. Awesome. So good. And you're being a great teacher. So thank you. Okay. So Mr. Picou's good. Well, keep on going here then.
Okay. So one of the questions I get asked a lot is how I get my clients. Word of mouth is usually the way. And if you don't know what that means, it's you do a good job for somebody and that person tells somebody else. So that new person then hires you because they said, hey, you did a good job for them. So that's usually how it works. Graphic designers don't usually advertise like a typical profession, like a plumber or a lawyer, things like that. It's usually word of mouth, which is how I got most of my business over the years. If you're a graphic designer and you work at an agency or a company, you get your jobs from somebody in the company. So somebody's job in that company is to go out, find new business, bring it in, and then so most designers at companies are sitting and waiting for a job to plop on their desk, and it's a lot easier, but not as fun, and you don't really have a lot of contact with the clients. So yeah, so this way that's usually how it happens. I have advertised over the years sometimes, for fundraising, like if my daughter's school needs something in her booklet, I'll put an ad in there, or I'll design the booklet and put an ad in. So yeah, advertising is good, but it's usually word of mouth. Social media is awesome these days. You can just promote yourself and be out there if you stay on top of it. Obviously, a website is key. So as long as you have something for people to find you, or you can point them in that direction to see your work and learn who you are, it's good. And if you're good at your job, you can keep word of mouth going for lots of years. Another way.
Do you find, John, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
social media you just hit on, do you find that that graphic designers are even more in demand because of the presence needed to, I guess, sell your brands or your event or in a professional manner by using a graphic designer?
Yeah, absolutely. We are, it's a weird profession because we are really behind the scenes people. You think about your day and walking around and the things you do and the things you pick up and see, it's all graphic design. There's a graphic designer doing something somewhere all the time. You go to the movies, it's the poster that you see, it's the title credits of the movie, that's a graphic designer. Just tons of stuff in the movie. Yeah, it's everywhere. So it's a really demanding job. It's in high demand, and the internet and social media just made it more so. Now there's so many different, everybody wants a website, everybody needs a website, which is fine. Everybody needs a logo to go on that website and content. So yeah, the internet just helped. So yeah, if you're good, you can do this job for a long time. Yeah, there's no shortage of stuff to do is what I'm saying. There's no shortage of projects out there, if you can find them. And so yeah, so word of mouth is one way, a little bit of advertising and promoting yourself, but partnerships is another way that I get jobs. With other creative people. I have friends who are photographers who get hired to photograph, a client's product, and they notice that maybe the label's not great or the logo or their advertising is not great. So they'll call me and say, "Hey, do you want to team up on this project and help out?" And then boom, I've got a new client and helping them with other things. So partnerships are another way to get clients. But yeah, word of mouth is probably the most. I can't stress that enough. Yeah, so that's it for my background and how I do this job. Did you guys have any questions before we moved on to the slideshow and anything like that? Any questions about school? About yes. Hi, Marina.
It's not a question. Hi. I just want to say, like, I've noticed with these art career pathways that, like, art is so much more like everything that we come into contact with in the modern world, and people don't like realize that enough, I don't think. So it's really awesome to hear about how it is really behind the scenes, but it's like everything, like literally everything that's not like nature is someone's doing that. That's an artist. So
absolutely. And I know you know about it. I know you're an artist. I know your parents, I know both your parents are. And yeah, that's just the way it is. And it's sort of something you have to deal with, right? Especially as a graphic designer, you're not, once you've created your work and given it to the client and they've moved on, you have to let it go. And then it's they make the money off the product. They get the praise for, oh, you've got such a great product and I love your label and I love your ads. And, the person who did it is kind of just in the back. So that's part of the job. And it's okay. We get appreciation in other ways through their success and through colleagues of ours, other graphic designers and other people. When they like your work, it's the best. When other designers like what you did, you're good. So yeah, it's out there, it's everywhere, and you can't escape it. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, and I know you explained to us what an art director is, but you mentioned illustrator. Do you want to just touch a little bit on the difference between graphic design versus illustrator?
Sure. So it's really the same. This is why in college they were kind of connected. It's the same job, really, but the illustrator is using more drawing That's really it. Drawing or literally a visual. That's what I should say. Literally a visual solution. So they're creating some kind of a drawing or some kind of a graphic or scene or something to help solve a visual problem. Most of my friends that were illustrators went into what's called editorial illustration. So that's whenever you open a magazine, if you open a magazine, you've got an article, and then usually with that article is a beautiful illustration kind of encapsulating what the article is going to be about. So if it's about, farming, you've got a cool illustration about, farming and what's happening. Illustrators do all kinds of stuff. They illustrate poster art, anything that needs a visual solution also can be solved by an illustrator. So lots of drawing or whatever style you want to actually collage, paint, whatever. But they're usually for a purpose. That's what makes it different than a fine artist. Fine artist is sort of working from within. What do I feel like? What do I want to express? A professional illustrator, they're only expressing what the client wants to express. What do we need said about our product or our company or our service? And then the illustrator's job is to translate all that into a picture. Again, versus painting, what I feel today. Yeah, so it's another great career too. It's lots of illustration opportunities out there for anybody who wants to go into it. So I thought
another one too. Yeah, that those of you that are joining or watching this after the fact, you could also look up Illustrator too. I'm just thinking on top of my head. I know medical illustration is huge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that I know that you need in those textbooks to figure things out, especially doctors and nurses. And
yeah. Oh, that's a talent in itself. But yeah, I've known several, and just beautiful work to do that. But yeah, you go to learn illustration. It's really about translation. That's what you're learning to do. So you're listening, you're figuring out what the important part is, and then you're translating that into something visual. So it's if you do it well, then it looks really good, and people can get what it is you're trying to say pretty much right away. Yeah. So I was going to share my screen, and
you should be able to do that. I've got you as a co-host, so you should be able to hit.
So I'm going to disappear for a second here. And so I wanted to talk about the things that I use in my job. So we've talked about the definition, what it is, what I do, how I learned how to do it. But these are some of the things that I use. So first off, I use a Mac. This is a MacBook Pro. It's 15-inch from Apple. I got in the habit of using a laptop on St. Croix because I was able to travel to places like CMC Arts or St. Croix Landmarks or the Bistro and Christian, wherever I wanted to go. I could go and work and meet with my client face to face, and it was just so great to have a laptop. So I've had one for years. It's just how I like to work. And even here in Virginia Beach, I'll go to the library or I'll go to Starbucks or whatever and work there. It's nice to be able to just be mobile. These are some of the programs I use. Up here, you'll see Adobe. Adobe pretty much rules the world. And they have sort of taken over everything. So these are the three main programs. They have what's called a suite of products, which is basically just means a family of products. Photoshop is the main one, or one of the main ones. InDesign is another one, and Illustrator. Photoshop, obviously, for editing photos, cropping and changing color and doing all kinds of fun stuff. Illustrator down here is for drawing usually. And then InDesign is a layout program where you put everything together. Everything you've created goes into this program, and you can sort of do whatever you want inside. Another great program I use is called Font Agent. And I've got over about 1,000 fonts, I think, right now on my machine. And this program helps me organize them. So they all go right into the program. And then over here on the left, I can create folders for different jobs. So I'm doing a poster, and that poster has 5 or 6 different fonts on it. I can pick those fonts, drag them into the folder, and now I've got my fonts that I'm using. One of the great features about it is down here at the bottom, you can see here, I've got the word logo. I can type in my client's name and then just start scrolling through my fonts, and what they look like will appear down here. So I can easily just see what I'm going to get down at the bottom here. So that's an indispensable program. There's lots of ones like them, but this is the one I like to use. It's just a font organizer.
Is this font organizer, is this a paid app then, or a paid program, the Font Agent? It is,
yeah. Yeah, there are free ones out there. And honestly, most machines, especially Macs, come with something built in called Font Book. Once you get a font, you dump it into Font Book, and you can use it basically the same way, but this has a lot more features, basically, is what it is. But most machines already come with one, some sort of organizer. But yeah, if you want to drive yourself crazy trying to figure out what font looks like what and try to remember, you got to get one of these types of apps or programs. And the last thing I wanted to point out was down here in the bottom, this company called Affinity. Their goal, I think, is to take over some of Adobe's business. So they've developed these programs that basically do everything that Adobe does, the Photoshop, the InDesign, and the Illustrator, but for a fraction of the cost. These cost about $50, $60, and you can own the program, and they do everything, and they're awesome programs. But it's really about basically those three. So I think their goal is to just pull people away who, want to do some design or do some artwork, but don't want to spend the Adobe money. So if you guys are looking to buy some programs or want to get something and you think Adobe is too expensive, or you don't want to get a subscription, which is how it works nowadays, you've got to get a subscription. Back in the day, you could just buy the program and have it. But the problem was it would get out of date quickly. So you'd have to go buy another one. So there's ups and downs for the subscription platform. But yeah, so Affinity, designer, photo, and publisher, they come separately. You can get them all together. So check that out if you want to look into getting some programs.
So you guys might want to jot down that name, Affinity, and if you got a birthday coming up, or you get a little bit of if you got a little job or something like that, save up, yeah. Because I do remember back in the day. That's what I'm saying, that we're dating ourselves. I do remember Adobe. You could buy it one time, get the whole suite, and then you got the when you were in college, you got the college discount too, student discount. But now you have to pay every single month to have the privilege of using their program. So
yeah, I fought it in the beginning, but really the not needing to update, it's worth it. And if you're busy enough, really, the cost of your jobs that you're getting paid for offset the cost of the program, no problem. They sort of keep the price in that range. But compared to Affinity, it's if you've got the money and you've got the drive to do this kind of work, that might be a good place to start.
And I think I saw a hand up. Did somebody have a question about these programs? I think Ari, do you want to?
Hey, Ari.
I was wondering, can you get by with smaller, less amount of money apps, or is it just, it makes a big difference?
Well, professional wise, you could get by. Affinity, this is the reason why I pointed out Affinity. They really are the closest to what Adobe is doing. So they have really full functioning apps that allow you to do tons of stuff. Free apps, though, you're only going to be able to go so far. And usually what happens is you can create something in a free app, but then you can't export it, or you can't get it to a printer, or you can't get it online until you pay for it. So eventually, they all want you to pay something. These guys just start off with a decent price and then let you do whatever you want with it. And Adobe is just, like I said, they rule the world. So they have, just endless amounts of programs and wonderful, easy to use interfaces. So that's why they're number one right now. But yeah, you can get started with it. But I think if you're ever going to do anything where you want to be somewhat professional or get things printed or get things out there, you need a program that you got to pay for. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. You're welcome. This is probably the best thing that I have. This is my sketchbook and a pencil. So programs aside, always start here. And just have one with you all the time. you might think it's silly, or you might think, oh, I'll remember what I was thinking. You won't. You won't. And so many happy accidents happen in this sketchbook. You know, mine is filled with stuff, all kinds of stuff. I rip things out of magazines still, but I also use my phone a lot, you know, walking around, getting inspiration, just taking pictures of things. But have a sketchbook, doodle, draw, sketch. You'll see some of mine in a minute here for some jobs that I've done, but this is probably the best thing I have. So start there.
I think we have one more question too. Kai, you've got a question? You got to unmute.
Going off Ari's question, if you do want to get into graphic designing and you want to use an online program, do you know any cheaper programs?
I don't. Not offhand, I don't. Those were the two that I've used in the past, and really haven't had a reason to look for any. But it's an easy thing to research. I don't want to dismay you, but eventually, whatever you find, like I was explaining a minute ago, you'll only be able to get to a certain point, and then you'll love your design and then say, all right, I want to save this. And then the program will say, you know, all right, well, if you want to save this, you've got to pay, you know, whatever. That's usually how it goes, you know. So it might be better to just start off, you know, paying for something like Affinity or getting a subscription to Adobe and just being ready to go. All right. All right. What do I have next? Okay, so this is my logo. Speaking of logos, this is my company logo, 620. It is I actually have two parts to my logo. So it's this and then this part also, which is a sort of a graphic sun that I came up with. Kind of like Walmart or Target, or there's lots of big brands that have two parts to their logo, and they kind of get separated or used together at parts. This I use on branding, on hats and t-shirts and things like that. It's also good on social media because it can be a square easily. So all my social media has this on there versus the longer 620. So I use it in different combinations. This is my older one. I had it for a long time. It's clearly a lot more of a sun here. I knew I was going to be living in the Virgin Islands, or I hoped. So this is kind of what I developed for myself, just kind of making it happen. And I kept the same font for the 620. I just changed the color, and sort of my process was I sort of inverted these parts here and came up with this guy, which also looks like a camera lens a little bit. I was doing a lot more photography. So that's where that came from. So whenever I promote myself or whatever, I use one of these or both together.
And does that number 620, is that something that's significant?
Yeah, so so I've had this for a really long time. This actually came from a college project similar to what we're doing today. A long time ago, we had to come up with a company name and start designing for that company. Most people came up with, you know, things that interested them, or their nicknames, or their actual names. And this is my birthday, is the short answer. June 20th is my birthday. So I stuck with this, and yeah, it's worked. So.
And I liked how you showed how you basically rebranded yourself there too, so that you kept elements, but then you've, you know, made it more modern, more up to date, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. A little more streamlined, a lot less parts. You know, this has so many points to it, and then the center ring, and then the diamond, and, you know, it just kind of, after a while, yeah, this was a little more, a lot simpler, which is always my goal, by the way. Any project I have, what is the simplest way to solve this problem with less stuff, with as few pieces as possible is what I mean. So these next couple, sorry, go ahead.
I think what you were saying a moment ago is important, because you were talking about when you're putting it on social media. So all the designs that you're thinking about, you have to decide, you know, is this, when you blow this up or when you're going to shrink this down, is this still going to be a successful design?
Exactly.
Which, yeah, I think is something that all designers have to think about.
Yeah. And unfortunately, your clients sometimes have to be convinced of this because they want to put so much into things. They think things are missing or not there, but it's usually because they're so close to the project. They're so attached to it that it's their baby. So they want to make sure it's crystal clear what they're doing. And it's our job to help with that translation I mentioned earlier. I'm going to hear everything, and then I'm going to translate it so that people out here can understand what you're trying to do. And that goes for my own stuff too. So I had to do that too. These next couple of slides are some logos that I have worked on over the years, and I'm just going to go through them and just kind of quickly explain what they are and how I got to the solution. Okay, logos. Hello. Okay, Cuddle. Cuddle is an app that's being developed by a woman. It's an app to monitor or track your development, your child development. So if you have a baby and you want to make sure they're ticking all the boxes, they're doing all the things they're supposed to do at certain ages, plus a ton of other information, this app will have that. We didn't want to do anything typical like a baby or a teddy bear or a rattle. We wanted it to be soft and feminine, since most moms are going to be using this. So this is what we came up with. A cloud, which is really just 4 circles overlapping each other, filled in, and then the name Cuddle. Interesting, initially, the name was full name, Cuddle, and I convinced her to shorten it to this. It still reads Cuddle, and it's a lot shorter, a lot shorter. So that's one. This is an SP. This is close to what you guys are going to be doing. This is for Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, the VI Congresswoman. We needed to come up with a simple brand that she could stamp on things, at the bottom of her posters or T-shirts, hats, things like that. So we came up with this cool little SP with the star on top, because she's a superstar. So so that's what we came.
Yes, she is. Okay.
She is.
I like this.
Even this got rebranded later. We added some things to it, but it's still pretty simple, the version. Guppy. This is a client who had a boat named the Guppy, and he wanted a cool logo on the side of his boat. Plus he wanted T-shirts and hats and things like that. So we came up with this. So this is a combination of sort of hand drawing and fonts mixed together. Again, started off in my sketchbook drawing, drew this little tail here, and tried to figure out how to get it all to work together. So we ended up with this. Firefly Studios. This was for a design studio. 2 guys, they had full-time jobs, but did design at night. So they called themselves Firefly Studios. Yeah, and this is back in the day, we would catch fireflies in little jars. And so that's where this came from. Yeah, did you have a question?
I'm just commenting. I really like how you change the drawing style for like the area or like the type of thing that you're drawing about. Like, see this, the jar, not all the lines are collected and they're not very, or connected, and they're not very straight, which is perfect. And with the guppy, like they're very, what is the word for that? I just like how it was swirly and everything. Yeah, it reminded me of the ocean.
Yeah, yeah. And that's your job, right? It's to get the things to match, right? So yeah, exactly right. So these, in my sketchbook, I make a lot of lists of words. I should have mentioned that too. I start off with a whole list of words lots of times. And in this case, that I probably had the word ocean on there, water somewhere, fish, fun, because he's a really fun guy, the guy that owns that boat. So all these things, and then you sort of start whittling down to what you want to do. And I want to take this second too to really just point out the whole variety thing. So this is an app for childhood development. This is a politician. This is a boat logo. A design studio. So variety is key, and it really helps you helps dictate what you're going to do. This one is it was a really boring company. They're an insurance company, but their name was Horizon. And I liked how this A created this little horizon here with the H coming over top of it. This has always been one of my favorite logos. Although they didn't want to add any color, they only wanted black and white, so that's fine. Paradise Freight, this is a company down on St. Croix also. I did this logo for them a long time ago. It was pretty simple, just, you know, green for land, blue for water, this little wave here in the middle. Yeah, Paradise Freight. Speedy Reader, this is an app or a computer program that helped you read articles online faster. So it would pull off the article without all the advertising and pictures and things like that, so you could read the article quickly. So this was my interpretation. It was, you know, these little stacked things here are the article, and the little lightning bolt is for speed. Self-explanatory, Speedy Reader. We would use just this portion here for, you know, the social media part, or for the app store, for the icon on the phone. It was just that little bit right there. So you kind of have to keep that in mind when you're designing it. Like, this thing needs to break apart and use different places. So you've got to keep those things in mind too. What's next? This is another Virgin Islands.
I don't know
logo.
if you see the comment popping up, Mr. Picou. We've got Marina just commented there in the chat box. She said, I have a Paradise Freight t-shirt with the logo. That's awesome that you designed it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even see that. Oh, I see. There's just chat box moved up to the top. Oh, thanks, son. U.S. Department of Labor. I don't know. Some of you guys might be seeing them soon. I don't know. But so I designed this for them. This portion here was pretty straightforward, just trying to figure out how to get the name to look good. And this symbol, I needed to figure out a way to make it clear that it was the 3 islands of the Virgin Islands. So St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. That's what these circles symbolize. Later, I had to update the logo. They wanted Water Island on there. They felt left out, so I had to add a fourth little circle in there. But I think they're still sticking with this one right now.
So just real quick, Mr. Picou, if you guys can all kind of visualize right now, instead of the 3 yellow circles that we're seeing right now, imagine if we just had the outlines of the islands. And I think that's what you're talking about as far as working with your clients and steering them in the right direction, because I'm guessing one of your challenges probably as a graphic designer is probably being a person who's really good at communication and explaining and helping guide your clients who might think more like, hey, straight, I want to see the 3 islands, and talk. I don't want to say talking them into something, but you know, I'm guessing when you're doing this too, of course, you're coming up with different logos to present to them with different color schemes. But yeah, you can visualize what it would look like with just the 3 islands. And this is so, you know, obviously so much better.
Absolutely. And you, and clients, sometimes they don't get it when you're saying it. So you've got to do the work. And for them, I remember them being super excited about this. They love that look. They love that. That's what that represented. Sort of their own little secret, you know, we know what that means. Sometimes it's not successful. Sometimes you can't convince clients of how cool something is or how great your idea is. They just want what they want. And, you know, then it's up to you to either continue the job or to, you know, walk away and say, yeah, I don't want to do that. So, but yeah, it takes a lot of communication, a lot of time. And luckily, if you get good clients, it's a partnership. It's a good word to use. Is you're sitting there and you're trying to solve the thing together. You're doing your part with the art. They're doing their part with trying to understand their clients or understand their customers. And you're trying to mash all this together and come up with something that will work. J&J is, so I put this in there because, again, it's going to be close to what you guys are going to do. J&J Productions is a film production company that I worked with on Island. This was the owner's nickname, J&J. So instead of just typing it straight out, I wanted to figure out a way to connect these two. I loved how this N and this J connected, and luckily she did too. So this ended up being the logo we used at the beginning of her movies, or our movies. I worked on some of them too. Okay, so this next group of logos, there's only a few left. I want to show really how they came about. And some examples that weren't chosen, and also some pages from my sketchbook so you can see the progression from how they start to where they end up. Bijou Mila, I think, translates to actually handmade jewelry here. So this is an example of wanting to see what your client does, right? So I knew the name, but I hadn't seen her work yet. And when I saw her work, it mostly all looked like this. It's really cool hammered metal with swirls and things like that. So right away, I knew I needed to get that into the logo somehow. And luckily I did. I was able to do that. So yeah, you want to, when you get a client, you want to go to their place, you want to see what they're doing, you want to see what they're making, you want to talk to their customers, you want to do as much investigation as possible before you sit down and start sketching and drawing. And then you get stuff like this. You get, oh, this is easy. I can do this. I can make your logo look like your actual work. Joya, another jewelry place. Joya is downtown Christiansted. She makes really pretty silver jewelry, really elegant stuff. So we knew her name and needed to be on there. Her last name used to be Jones, so the J is for that, also for Joya. But I wanted to show in this slide how the logo gets used. So this is at the airport. I think it's still up at the airport. So we basically had all her, some models put their hands on her sign and take a picture. And yeah, so the goal always for me is to use as few parts as possible to get this across. So we've got our image, we've got our logo, her tagline, and then where to find it. Compared to some of these on the sides, you can see a little bit on the sides here, there's a lot going on those. And my goal is always just as few pieces as possible. With the logo and with any of the work that I do too. So this was a really nice piece. I really like that billboard that's up.
That's a good thing too. I mean, if you guys are into graphic design, then when you see bad design, it pretty much kind of hurts you when you look at bad design. But then ask yourself those follow-up questions. What about this design is making me wince? What is it about this design that is not successful? And I guess learning from other people's design mistakes.
Yeah.
And that might be the graphic designer or it might be the client that has pushed the person into that direction. But
if it's really bad, it's both of them. Yeah. Yeah.
And
so
then
that's
of course,
the thing.
when you like good designs, like what we're seeing with Mr. Picou's, you can sit there and start taking some notes in your head. Simplicity, obviously the graphics here that we're seeing with the lettering, etc. So.
Yeah, and that's part of your job as the designer is to put yourself in. So you've got to put yourself in multiple places, the client's shoes and the customer's shoes. And sometimes that's a hard thing for the client to do. That it's hard for them to put themselves in their customer's shoes. Like what's their customer's reaction going to be when they walk up and see this? So you've got to do it as the designer. You've got to pretend to be the customer walking up and how am I feeling about this, this logo or this ad or poster or whatever. Here's another quick example. This is Tillman Construction. This is the logo I came up for him. And this is an example over here of one of his construction sites and the sign I made for him. So very simple. Name, email, phone number, things that you would want on a job site. If you're driving by and you want to hire them, this is what you need. And the 3 islands they work on. And down here is an example of how I use the logo on his business card. One side just clean his logo, the other side the little T there and the information. What do we have next? Salt. So Salt is a restaurant on the South Shore, a delicious restaurant. Happens to be owned by my family. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law own it and run it. It's yummy. So when they were opening, they wanted a logo and they came to me, thank goodness. And so this is what we came up with. So I wanted to show you what was chosen. And here are some examples that I submitted that weren't chosen. This one was chosen right away, I think, because there's a sugar mill on the property. And again, you've got to go out there. You've got to go see what, I can't design this back in my office and not know this. So I go out there, I see there's this sugar mill out there. So one of the options included this shape, which also, by the way, looked like a salt shaker. So I added 3 dots. So this one got chosen right away, but these were some of the other options. They like this one down here. They love the bowl with the steam coming out. But the other ones maybe were a little too fancy and didn't really speak to them. They're both very young. They're not, this isn't an insult, but they're not super classy and the place isn't fancy. It's just a really nice restaurant. So they chose this one. Let me click.
And he did a great job, because I think we'd all agree, even if you haven't had the pleasure of eating there, and you're, especially like if you're a tourist, you can tell right away that this is a restaurant you're going to go to, you're going to enjoy the food, but you don't necessarily have to get all dressed up for it. And the logo really, it states that there.
And yeah, as much as I talked about that font program, this is a font, or it started off as a font, but really, you know, I can't stress enough that sometimes just hand drawing things or going in and messing things up works. And that's what happened here. Just kind of scooting that T over top of the L here, you know, stacking it up, changing the shape of the S. I think actually the font, the S is the other way. I flipped it upside down because I like the fat part on top. So you're in charge. You're the one making all this stuff happen. So don't be stuck with whatever the computer types up for you. Start moving it around, start doing things. In fact, lots of times what I'll do is I'll type out a word like salt, and then I'll separate each letter so that it's a completely separate object, and then start doing stuff with it. So this next couple I wanted to show you, here's one of the pages out of my sketchbook. I usually do like 2 or 3 pages per logo. So the company was Sparkle Group. She's a real estate agent. And so I knew there was going to be an S involved. There was going to be a house maybe involved, some kind of sparkle. So I started just drawing anything I can think of, just little doodles, little sketches, anything. And they turned into these. Actually, she had about 8 of these. So, but these are 4 that I turned in. And yeah, so this is what I thought she'd like, and this is the winner. This is what ended up winning. Let's see. There you go. So that's the winner. I thought this little sparkle, here's a good lesson. I thought this little thing right here was more of a sparkle than what she chose. She chose this here. It looks more like a star to me, but you know, you got to let the client win, and sometimes it's their thing. So and there's no house here, because what we decided was she's always going to have this thing on the picture of a house. Plus she also had a tagline that went with it, something like adventures in real estate or something like that is usually with this. So and she also didn't want to be like everybody else. Everybody else has got a house or something in their logo, and she didn't want that at all. So she thought, if I have to work a little harder to get them to know what it is, that's fine. I just, you know, I want a nice, bright, fun logo. So that's what we got. And the last one is another example of my sketchbook here. This is Q Studio. They're a photography studio on St. Croix. And she wanted a new logo for her business. So I just went crazy sketching Qs like a crazy person here, all kinds of different shapes and whatever. I don't even know what I'm drawing. Lots of times it's just a circle with a line, and I'm stacking them. I'm flipping it over, inside out, rotating it, all kinds of things. So that ended up turning into these 6. And this was—
Oh, Jean, if you don't mind real quick, can you go back? Those of you that aren't as familiar with Zoom, you might have to take the box with all of our pictures on it that you're seeing and just drag it over. So
can you move it? Oh, there we go. Okay.
So you might have to do a little movement. So those of you that said you're not as familiar with Zoom, you pick up from the top and just move it over, and then you can see all those options that he created over there to the right for his customer.
Thank you for that tip. I just did it myself. Okay, so these were the 6 that I turned in, or 6 of the ones I turned in, and this was the winner right here. She was very happy with it. You see the part of the Q here, Q Studio, and instead of a solid color, we decided to stick with the whole photography and light type thing. So this looks like light shining through a prism or a lens. And the benefit of this also is she gets lots of colors to choose from. So if she's doing any other project, she could use this green here, or this pink, or this tangerine, and it would still be part of her brand. So she's got a lot of colors built into this one logo. So there we go. So any questions about anything? I know it was a lot of stuff. Okay.
Okay, so you guys are good then. And you guys, thank you, Mr. Picou. I think you did an excellent job explaining graphic design and giving us all those great options, and we can really see, you know, what your challenges are in your position here. And, you know, again, working with your clients to come up with the best solution for them, for their logo there. So we're excited. The next part of this is the art challenge. So each time we have a host on, they give us an art challenge. You guys are going to have the next week and a half. I'll send you guys an email out with the exact date, but to send us your design in that he's going to base our art challenge on. And then we'll be selecting a winner. It's a $150 gift certificate. And that one is good for the frame up for art supplies or for Office Max. And again, thank you to St. Croix Foundation for sponsoring this part of our Exploring Art Career Pathways.
Okay, so here's my logo challenge for you guys. It's to create a personal logo for yourself using either your first, middle, and last initials, so 3 initials, or just your first name. So initials or your name, and a logo mark that goes with it, some sort of symbol that represents you and supports your brand. So you're gonna have the 2 things together. Color and black and white. Black and white's pretty easy. That's usually how I start with my projects. They're all in black and white, and then the color later we figure out what's the best color or color palette for this client or for this business or product or whatever. So some things to think about. Think about how the letters fit together. I showed some examples of those. Don't be afraid to break these things apart. If you're using a computer, great. But again, try to move things around. Don't just go with what the computer types out for you. And how it works with your symbol. So these 2 things need to work together somehow. So you can flip, rotate, stretch, break apart, whatever you want to do, stack, however you want to do it. And another thing to think about is what you want to use. So yeah, a computer, absolutely. If you have one and it's handy and you can work with it, go right ahead. But I am perfectly fine with markers or color pencil. You can use objects to create your logo, branches, wood, leaves, cloth, paper, anything. Just be creative. But at the end result, I want to see a logo. You know, again, either create it from your initials or your name, and then a little symbol that goes with it. So the logo should say you, be creative, and have fun.
Do you guys have any questions about this logo challenge? I'll make sure that Mr. Picou sends me this, and I'll be able to slide, send the slide, and I'll email it to everybody that's on the Zoom call. But I see people already, probably their wheels are turning here. They're already starting to think about that logo challenge. So if you have your phone nearby, you can snap a picture if you don't want to wait for that email to come to you. And I guess get started right away. Like Mr. Picou said, probably pencil to paper is the best way. Go old school style here before you start worrying about getting onto a tablet or a device.
And you all have great names, and I mean, right away I can see some cool stuff happening. So yeah, like I said, initials or name, and have fun. Absolutely.
Any questions at all before Mr. Picou says goodbye to us? Okay, I'm going to ask that you guys stay on the line with me for just one moment for a quick survey, but I want to thank again, Mr. Picou. Thank you so much for taking your time today, your busy time, and putting us in your schedule for today. And so wonderful for you to come back and share your art story with the students here on St. Croix, and helping to inspire the next generation of graphic designers, because just as Marina pointed out, art is all around us. And what a boring world it would be without artists here. So thank you again.
Thank you guys, and have fun and good luck with your project. I cannot wait to see them. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.